we wanted to be sure to keep our grades on the same scale that we use to grade recruits, right? So, and with that, we didn't give out a whole lot of 4 and 5 stars. We had, I think, out of the 166 guys, 15 4-stars, no 5 stars. And I don't want to spend all day on process here, but the reason why we didn't is because like our research shows that quarterback's a little bit different on this, right? Quarterbacks do seem to transfer and succeed, but you know how many transfer players have gone first round other than quarterbacks the last 3 years?
No, do you have that number?
0.
Oh, what did you say? First 3 rounds or first round?
First round.
First round. Gotcha. Yeah.
So like we had some guys go second and third round last year with Van Jefferson and Jonathan Grenard, second and third respectively. But last 3 years, nobody other than quarterbacks who have transferred have gone in the first round. And I think that's really because if you are a position player, you don't have to deal with sort of like the incumbent, like overcoming the incumbent bias, right? Where like, oh, those kids are returning leader at quarterback. And I'm not trying to dismiss that. I think there's probably something to having a guy who you've gone to battle with before. But at the other positions, I think they generally just play the best player. So if you're transferring out, especially if you're going Power 5 to Power 5, or especially if you're transferring down a level, you're usually transferring out because you got beat out or because you had some sort of academic issue or drug testing issue or behavioral issue. The guys who are like no doubt first round types, they typically start and usually start early in their careers. Not always, but they're by the second, third year, they're usually starters. They're not guys transferring. So just my research shows, and I know that we've seen this, for the most part, these position rating guys or these position player, other than quarterbacks, they're kind of more filling holes, and they're not usually turning into superstars. Quarterback, though, is different.
Yeah, and I think a pretty telling representation of that is, just if you look at our rankings, some of the guys that ended up ranked the highest, like to your point, Bud, I think if you're transferring up, if you're transferring from FCS up, from Group of 5 to Power 5, then that is telling as to your ability. You're saying I've graduated from this level. Let me challenge myself somewhere else. Like a Rock Ya-Sin comes to mind, who transferred from he was at Delaware, I guess, to Temple, and was he a first, second rounder last year? And even this year, there is a couple of our highest rated non-quarterbacks are transferring up. So you have Quincy Roche, who's transferring up from Temple to Miami, a guy who was the AAC Defensive Player of the Year, one of the top pass rushers in the country, according to PFF. Just a guy that's going to be that's viewed as an NFL prospect playing in the AAC. Well, he'll be in the ACC next year. And then the other one of note is the Jabril Cox kid, who comes from North Dakota State, who was a linebacker, one of the top players in all of FCS over the last 2 years. He's going to be at LSU and expected to be a first-year starter there. And look, if you're starting on the defense at LSU, history tells us you're going to get drafted. And so I think those are two that represent sort of the guys you should be more likely to be excited about, rather than the guy that's transferring from one Power 5 to another Power 5.